Hi, I'm Tom Burke, Associate Dean for Public Health Practice here at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Welcome to Public Health on the Inside, your inside look into the world of public health. Today, it's our pleasure to have with us Dr. Auxitis Barbeau, Commissioner of the Baltimore City Health Department. Dr. Barbeau has been leading the City Health Department as Commissioner since 2010. In her role, she serves as the city's primary health official, running the health department, advising the mayor, and being our public health leader. She is someone who's really on the front lines of public health and has to deal with all the challenges of public health in a big city. Dr. Barbeau, welcome to Public Health on the Inside.
Thanks, Tom. It's great to be here.
Well, first, congratulations on being a big city health commissioner. There are only a small number of people in our field who get to lead a big city, and it must be amazing. You get to take on really difficult challenges, but you also get to be kind of behind the scenes when the president visits, or maybe we're having a Super Bowl parade. Tell us about your journey from school, from undergraduate to that leadership position you have now.
Well, you know, Tom, being a big city health commissioner is not something that I ever envisioned myself doing. So I did my undergraduate at Yale, went to med school, trained as a pediatrician, and was actually in primary care pediatrics for about 10 years in Washington, D.C. And there, my patient population was primarily poor, uninsured, immigrants, homeless, and I loved every minute of it. But one of the reasons why I wanted to change to public health and work on the policy aspects of things was because I realized, I'd say 3/4 into my clinical time, that my patients were coming in with the same underlying issues causing their diseases. And I wanted to do more. I wanted to affect the lives of people tens of thousands at a time rather than one at a time, even though every single patient that I had affected my life in a really meaningful way. I wanted to do more. So I ended up going to the New York City Department of Health, where I was the medical director of the Office of School Health. And there I was responsible for 1.1 million school children. And that was an exciting opportunity to do public health in the biggest city in the country. And so the step from there to Baltimore was a natural step in many ways, because many of the issues that I dealt with in New York City were similar here in Baltimore.
Well, we know Baltimore might be a little bit better in some ways than New York City. And so I want to ask you about Baltimore. What are the most exciting aspects of being here? I mentioned the Super Bowl parade. Now they probably have one every once in a while up in New York too. But what are the most exciting aspects of the job, making that transition and coming to a new city like this?
There are so many interesting and exciting aspects to what I do. First and foremost, I am never bored. The range of issues that we oversee spans from animal control to infant mortality to school health to maternal child health to behavioral health to aging issues, restaurant inspections, you name it. And so every one of those areas offers an opportunity, A, to always be learning, and B, to develop partnerships with different areas of the city so that we can do really cool things.
Lots of people don't realize it, but there's an awful lot of science that goes into decision making in public health and leading a big city like you do. And you've really gotten a reputation as a person who looks toward the data, who looks toward the evidence. I remember when the mayor was introducing you at the press conference, she talked about your work with the New York City school system. Tell us a little bit about evidence and the development of the community health profiles in Baltimore.
You know, I think I realized my love for data when I was at the New York City Health Department, and that is a health department that's very much focused on data as a way to help direct resources to where they're most needed, but also to evaluate what difference you're making. And so when I got here, I wanted to do something similar. And so we put together an Office of Epi Services, whereby we have a chief epidemiologist whose job it is to ensure that our data is of the highest quality and that we provide data for use for the community. It's not just putting together reports and letting them sit on our website, but it's actually going out and meeting with communities and saying, hey, this is what the data show with regards to your health profiles. Give us a reality check. Tell us how this reflects your everyday life. And beyond that, tell us how it is that we can partner to improve the health of all of our communities. And so when we put the neighborhood health profiles together, we wanted to incorporate not just traditional health outcome measures such as mortality from heart disease, etc., but really measure the things that illustrate where we live, work, learn, and play, because we know from studies that have been done that 80% of our health outcomes derive from things other than direct clinical services. And so within the health profiles, we include measures that incorporate children's readiness to learn when they enter kindergarten, education being one of the main drivers, one of the main social determinants of health. We also incorporate things like vacant building density, alcohol outlet density, rates of poverty, tobacco outlet density, because all of those things influence community health.
I think you've really done a tremendous job in putting together those health profiles. Your chief epi recently lectured, and I have to give Dr. Aruna Chandran a great pat on the back for coming and lecturing in our class. And I think really opening the eyes of our students here, because the neighborhoods are all different. And the priorities in one neighborhood may not be the same as others. And I think you're leading the way in developing new ways to really address the social aspect of public health and prevention, and they have been a tremendous tool. So as you look at this information, what are some of the biggest challenges you think the city of Baltimore faces in terms of public health?
You know, one of the things that struck me when we went out and engaged the community around the neighborhood health profiles was that there was a lot of synergy around certain health issues. So in the top 3 measures that were prioritized by communities, all related to heart health. So things such as ensuring that people got adequate amounts of physical activity, that they went to the doctor to manage their high blood pressure, etc. But there was uniformly a level of sophistication, I would say, where community members, everyday folks, could make the connections about how where they lived, worked, learned, and played has a direct influence on their health. And so, for example, the issue of alcohol outlet density was one that was rated very high, and actually in more than half of our communities, that issue of having high liquor outlet density ranked in the top 10. And it wasn't just communities where there was indeed a high density, but it was also in communities where they had had a history of struggling against high density and could put their fingers on the everyday implications of having such high density in their community. So I think part of the challenge that we face in this city is helping to create the connections between communities that have been successful in addressing health issues in their communities and partnering them with communities who want to do the same thing, and having communities learn from each other. Because, you know, what we say is that as the health department, it's not our job to tell communities what they need to do to make themselves healthier. It's about what we can do to help create linkages and to help facilitate resources for communities.
And that involvement of the community is so critical to what we try to do in public health.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you about Baltimore. Obviously, Johns Hopkins is a big part of Baltimore, too, and we know there are perceptions of Baltimore out there as a pretty tough place, whether it's The Wire or I like to think of the Ravens defense as being pretty tough, too.
but has a perception out there of being a pretty tough town. But once you get here, you learn different things. Certainly I did. What about Baltimore surprised you?
You know, I think one of the things that struck me was how open people are. And, when I was first here, everywhere I went, people I didn't know at all would come up and give me a big hug. And honestly, that took me a little bit of getting used to, but I really appreciate that because it symbolized how open the people are, how open the city is to bringing new folks here and to giving them the opportunity to make this place their home.
That's great. And Auxitas, I should mention, both of us have experience in New Jersey, and we're not
Yes.
the most huggable people from a Jersey and New York City perspective, and that is an amazing thing about the people of Baltimore. You only have a little more time, and I wanted to kind of close and asking you kind of a big picture question about your background and future leaders. When you think back on going to school and your preparation for this, is there anything that you wish they taught you in school to prepare you for this? Or how would you advise students in preparing for these really tough but tremendous leadership jobs that we have in public health?
You know, apart from wishing that I had done more quantitative work, I think the education that I got was instrumental in helping me be a critical thinker and to look at the health of individuals and of communities within the social political context. I think that these days, in order to be a successful public health practitioner, we have to look at the big picture and really think about how is it that we can promote health-informed policies that will give greater opportunities for sustainable, improved health outcomes.
Bringing evidence to the policies and the policymakers. That's a great message, I think, to our listeners. And Dr. Auxitas Barbeau, I would really like to thank you for being here today on Public Health on the Inside, and to all of you, we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Tom.